there's something interesting about how your brain works. So if you want to make a really fine adjustment with your finger, the best way to do it is to push in one direction and then push against your finger with the other finger, because then you can make unbelievably tiny corrections. And so a system seems to work better this way of a right and left hemisphere. If there's dynamic opposition, because you'd think, well, I'd move a lot faster if everything got the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
It's like, not necessarily.
You'd crash and burn quicker.
Well, that's
Yes.
exactly it. And so, you said you partnered with someone who had traits that opposed yours. One of my partners is far more disagreeable than me. And I would say more orderly and way more skeptical. And I'm always out there going, well, we could do this, we could do this, we could do that. Here's an opportunity, here's another opportunity. And what he does is a lot of it is no. Yeah, a lot of it is no. And it's frustrating, of course.
Yeah, because we take it personally.
Well, and because you see, if you're open, you see the landscape of opportunity. But a quick death is better than a slow, painful death. And working with someone who says no offers you the opportunity to have a quick death. And that's actually preferable. So you have to tolerate that tension of opposites if you're going to build something that's lasting and that's actually implementable. Well, all these different, so that's genuine diversity, so that's the first thing. If you want genuine diversity, you go for diversity of temperament, right? Not diversity on the basis of ethnicity and that sort of thing. You go for diversity of temperament. And there wouldn't be, from a biological perspective, all these different temperaments wouldn't exist if they didn't have their niches. Right? So, because there'd be no place for them. And the thing is, people actually are different, and they're different because differences are required in different circumstances. And it's, well, another reason to do the personality testing, I would say, is, well, first of all, it's enlightening. I had my kids do this personality test that I told you about.
How old are your kids?
They're in their mid-20s now. I had them do it when they were in their teens. And because they, I tested out the things I was developing on them. And I know my kids pretty well, or so I thought, and when they did the personality test, it revealed to me things about them that I had misconstrued. It was really useful. So I thought my daughter was far more disagreeable than she actually was. A lot of the clashes I was having with her, I was having because at that time anyways, she had pretty high levels of negative emotion. And I thought that she was disagreeable. She wasn't. She's very agreeable, but she would get upset quite easily. And so I learned to some degree to comfort her when she was upset rather than argue with her, and that was extraordinarily helpful. And I thought my son was easy to get along with, and he's unbelievably disagreeable, but he's very, very low in negative emotion. So he would never get upset about anything, so he's easy to be around, but trying to get him to do something he doesn't want to do is impossible. He just won't do it. And so and it was quite shocking to me that even though I knew my kids and even though I'm a trained psychologist, I still had elements of their temperament wrong in my conceptualization. So that was extremely useful to figure out and to really develop an appreciation for the fact that those people who don't think like you, they're actually different than you.
And in many areas better than you.
Well, that's the thing, is that, with those differences come, well, your temperament is a set of strengths and their attendant weaknesses, right? And you don't get the strengths without the weakness. So the thing about open people is like, well, they're creative, but they're all over the place. And if you're open and high in negative emotion, it's a rough combination because the openness destabilizes you, right? You don't have a stable identity because you're interested in this, and then you're interested in this, and then you're interested in that, and maybe you can handle that. But if you're also an anxious person and have some difficulty with uncertainty, you basically undo yourself by being creative. It's like, well, how can you stop being anxious if you're never in the same place for more than 1 minute? And so lots of people who are really creative and high in neuroticism, they just unglue themselves. And so for people like that, I recommend it's like, try to make a damn schedule. Like try to hem yourself in a bit because you'll just burn yourself out with nervous exhaustion otherwise. So, and it's useful to know all of that. Okay, so let's say that you're a person that procrastinates and you don't get things done. Maybe you're creative, you have other things going for you. I would say, well, learn to use a schedule. And you think, I don't want to be hemmed in by a damn schedule, and it feels like a prison. And fair enough, man, it is a form of prison. But
it's also a form of order. Well,
this is and it's also a precondition for additional successful creative endeavors. So one of the things I recommend for people to do is to use a calendar like Google Calendar, but not to design the day they should have. use the calendar to design the day that you would want to have, because you can make a calendar your friend if you don't make it a tyrant.
Yeah.
So you don't want to build a tyrant into the system. You want to be intelligent about it, because if you're going to schedule your time, you have to understand that there are things that you need to do, that you should do, because if you don't do them, you're going to fall behind, and that will be counterproductive. It isn't because someone's wagging their finger at you and saying that this is a moral imperative, even though that might be part of it. It's because there are obligations that you have to fulfill, or you fall farther behind and the obligations get bigger.
Yeah.
And that's a bad pathway. So you have to build some of that into the schedule, but a lot of it can be, well, okay, tomorrow, I want to have the sort of day that I would really be pleased at having by the end of the day. And I want to build in a schedule that I would stick to as well. And so you have to have some appreciation for your own weaknesses. Lay out a schedule and you think, well, would someone like me actually do that?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then you modify the schedule until you think that you would do it and that you would be pleased if you did do it. And then the schedule can start to become your friend. And I think if you're not a person who's orderly by nature, the schedule has to be your friend, because otherwise you won't use it.